Now, one Fox News pundit has an interesting theory on why the Republicans are so into destroying anything related to Barack Obama and his legacy, of course, beginning with the Affordable Care Act. Now, on his program, Charles Krauthammer says that Obama's legacy is built on sand because he didn't reach out enough to Republicans. Take a look.
Charles, what about this farewell tour as it continues on till Friday?
I'm the best president I've ever been. That's a pretty low bar. I'm sure all presidents, on the week they're leaving office, delude themselves into thinking they were a great historic success. I'm sure it happens in all walks of life. And you wonder whether Obama believes it. I'm convinced he does. I think what he doesn't quite understand is, yes, he did a lot of things, but they are all built on sand. And the is that he never brought in the opposition. He never brought in the country. I mean, he wins all these elections when he's on the ticket, and he gets crushed in all the elections when he's not. Because, as he said himself, I'm not on the ballot, but my policies are. He completely overshot the mandate. The mandate in '08 was to reassure a very nervous, apprehensive country and to govern sort of in a moderate way. And he understood it as a mandate for his sort of social democratic. He was Bernie Sanders before Sanders was Sanders. And he tried to govern that way. And you can't for a country that is 80% non-liberal.
Yeah.
He was Bernie Sanders before Bernie Sanders and Sanders.
Yeah.
You've got to be kidding me. What
you
is
know
this?
what's weird is that guy actually buried beneath the bogus comparisons and very interesting grasp on what being progressive is, as well as a very interesting perspective on the political demographics of this country, that I'm not sure what he's basing that off of. 80% of the country is non-liberal. I don't think that's even close to being true, actually. But buried beneath all that, he actually has some kind of okay points that I think have their place.
Let me get to those. Let's get to
right.
those.
I mean, well,
first.
that's why it's kind of like a web where it's like some of the stuff is so bogus. You're like, what?
So you
but
need
then some
to
of the stuff you're like, well, he actually has a point there. That's a valid observation.
So we've got to kind of what we got to do is we got to break this whole thing apart into its components and analyze each. Okay. For one, talking about Obama being this big social democrat when he should have been a moderate.
Yeah, that's in the batshit crazy column.
That is, I wish he was more like Bernie Sanders. And look, we know Bernie Sanders. That guy is no Bernie Sanders. Okay, not Bernie Sanders.
He's always been a moderate. I didn't even
Always.
support him in the primary in '08 because I thought he was too conservative. I was a Kucinich guy. Obama's always been the moderate, and at the time that was what we needed. That was what was going to win. But I mean, to make it out like he's some huge social democrat not reaching across the aisle, where has this guy been the past 8 years? Where has this guy been when Barack Obama had a Democratic majority and pretty much past Romney Care Light, that yes was a step in a better direction, as we pointed out, but was still very much a compromise. And now some of the problems with that bill that we're seeing arise is from that compromise of letting the for-profit insurance industry at the table still.
And by the way, that compromise ended up getting 0 Republican votes. None. They're like, no, we're not going to pass our own plan. Screw you.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Yeah, I mean, he
if that were me,
the aisle.
If that were me, I'm sorry. I would have been like, oh, you don't like my compromise? Medicare for all, bitch. What are you gonna do?
Yeah,
what are you gonna do?
If the Democrats could have walked in step, that could have happened. I mean, let's not forget, sadly, on the Democratic side of things.
Yeah, but it's your you're the leader of the party. It's your job to get the party to get behind you on these things. Right. And look, maybe there are some, there's Democrats that would not go for that. Okay, so you reach compromise. Single payer. He didn't fight enough for single payer. He took them out for those corporatist Democrats. Mm-hmm. And I would. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, you go for the whole loaf, or else you're going to end up with the half. And we got the half. And now the Republicans are like, we're going to steal the whole thing. We're going to take your half and we're going to rip it up. That's what we get. Well, that's what happened.
That's the scary thing. When you're building a new house and the roof is leaking, you repair the roof and you make the roof better. You don't burn down the house. And the Republicans want to burn down the house. Fixing the roof would be taking the steps necessary to get to a nonprofit single payer.
Right.
They want to burn down the house, though.
Yeah. No, look, as far as Obama, this absurd claim that he didn't reach out enough to Republicans. Are you kidding me? Okay.
Yeah,
look,
that's...
when it comes to the anti-gay stuff that the Republicans put out, the social issues, like abortion, okay, you can understand why Obama was like, no, hard line, not doing it, okay? We believe in expanding freedom to other people, non-negotiable. But you have things like him putting Social Security on the table during the debt negotiations, the Simpson-Bowles Commission, okay? That was bullshit. You also have, as you mentioned, healthcare. Making 97% of the Bush tax cuts permanent. This is something that George W. Bush couldn't even do. And yet he got those tax cuts permanent. And not only that, but he also tried to work with the Republicans to reduce the deficit. And when they wouldn't work with him, he reduced the deficit anyway. So, and look, in case you guys forgot that are watching, Mitch McConnell and the Republicans made it their number one priority to ensure that Barack Obama would be a one-term president. And when, of course, that didn't happen, when they got their ass handed to them in 2012, at least on the presidential level, they continued to obstruct and do nothing to help the country. In fact, we're still waiting on Obama's SCOTUS nominee to be confirmed. He picked a guy that I didn't necessarily like, but he picked a guy, and it's their job to give him an up or down vote. They didn't do that. They put it off, they obstruct. They sat around essentially with their thumbs in their asses, didn't do their job. And you know what happens when people don't do their job? They get fired. And what do? We reelected them as a country, and then elected a clown to be their leader. Insanity.
Yeah.
Insanity.
His analysis of the kind of confrontational, like a populist that he's claiming Barack Obama is completely and utterly bogus. I mean, Barack Obama was never that guy. He never even really campaigned as that guy. Where this guy actually had some points is when he said how popular, and I'm paraphrasing his words, but he pretty much said how popular Barack Obama was as a person, whereas the platform waned in popularity. I think he's right there. I think that's actually a true observation.
Well, not only
but
that,
I think that's more of a reflection of the country was thirsty for a more progressive direction. They were recognizing the failures of neoliberalism, and they wanted a true populist, which, yes, we did have that option on the ballot. We had Bernie Sanders. But then when that didn't happen, you had this disguised populist, this guy claiming to be a populist that was the farthest thing from it, that was able to sell enough people snake oil. So I think this guy was right in his the way he analyzed Barack Obama's popularity there. I just think all of his reasons for that are completely wrong. The reason is not because, Barack Obama was too unwilling to compromise with Republicans, or the country's too conservative, or Barack Obama was just too far left. No, I think it's because that message was dated. That neoliberalism approach was dated and over, and it wasn't enough to win a third time. Yeah.
And there's another thing, too, that he kind of briefly hit on that I think is worthy of talking about. And that, look, if you want to make the argument, as he is, that Obama let the Democratic Party wither in the states, yeah, I would agree with that. The DNC and Barack Obama did not help out the states like they should have. They did not ensure progressive victories in these local and state elections. They focused on controlling only the national stage. And they did kind of poorly at that. While they had the presidency, they ended up first losing the Senate, then they lost the House. Because, again, as you point out, they went in that more neoliberal direction. And that's where we didn't want to go. I mean, you remember Barack Obama talking about going and, putting on his walking shoes and fighting for the unions in Wisconsin? I remember that. You know what happened? Didn't happen. He didn't go.
Didn't happen.
He didn't do it. He didn't.
And
go
then
out
this
there.
past year, the nominee didn't even show up in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And
so
we wonder why Wisconsin went red.
Exactly. And same thing with Michigan and fighting for the unions, because we had some major union fights these past 4 years. And where was Barack Obama? Where was the Democratic Party? They were nowhere to be seen. You know where Bernie Sanders was? He was there. He was out there fighting. He was out there saying things. He was out there fighting for unions. Where was Barack Obama? Where was the leader of the party? So if you want to make the argument that he did, that he let the party down, that's a fair argument to make, and I'll agree with that 100%. But that's pretty much where our agreement ends, because I think that this is a great this is a great example of gaslighting the nation. Mm-hmm. That's what Charles Krauthammer is doing, and that's what the Republicans on Fox News are doing. Okay, they are literally gaslighting. No, Obama, you didn't reach out to the Republicans enough. They totally would have worked with you if you had done everything that they wanted you to do. It doesn't quite work that way, man. That's not actually the direction that you should go, especially when you're president and you actually want to push for certain policies. Yes, there's compromise, right? But again, the Republicans have shown that they're not interested at all in doing any sort of actual compromise that helps the American people. Instead, it's like, we will compromise with you on cutting Social Security and Medicare. And even so, actually, that's not even a good example, because when he put that on the table, the Republicans wanted so much more that they decided, no, we're not, unless we get 100% of what we want, we're not going to go with you. You need to come 100% over to our side, or else we're not going to make a deal with you to cut the deficit and the debt. Which, again, is a Republican priority and a focus. Amazing. This is absolutely gaslighting with this guy. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent, non-corporate media, go to our Patreon page and become a patron. Patreon.com/TYTNation.